I meet young people and I insist they become my friend. Whether they like it or not, I said, I love meeting new people, new friends.
I'm thrilled to welcome Pauline Stone, former supermodel, as my next guest to the third act. There's a photograph in Pauline's cloakroom in her apartment at the glamorous Auriens in Chelsea that is the perfect embodiment of the joyful innocence of the early 1960s. It's a portrait by Bailey of Pauline kneeling down to kiss a squirrel in the park in her Charles Jourdain shoes. It's an image that launched both her careers of supermodel and Bailey's as a photographer. I'm thrilled to catch up with this most elegant of women, a brilliant ambassador for Auriens, the residencies for later life living, which is also her new home. She defines Oscar Wilde's light-hearted maxim that second marriage is the triumph of hope over experience. In fact, she's been married 4 times. She became a single mother at 23, was widowed twice, tragically lost 2 of her 3 grown-up children, and suffered her own life-threatening health scares. Her life is the stuff of novels, but if she's scarred by the tragedies that have occasionally shaken her face to the foundations, she's not showing it during our intimate chat over tea at Auriens. Let's start at the beginning. You were the face of the 60s, really, weren't you?
I was one of the girls. We didn't have supermodels in those days. They didn't come till later. So I think I was one of the top models. I came having been very influenced by beauties like Susie Parker and people like that. I loved a bit of glamour. And I worked with photographers that brought that side out of me, like John French, who did photograph women beautifully. And so some of my loveliest pictures were by him.
And you launched Bailey's career, the saying goes, with that photograph.
One picture, which
squirrel.
Is in my loo. And he actually wrote on a separate piece of paper, which is at the back of the picture, this picture launched my career because it was in the Daily Express, I think. And Vogue saw it, and that's when they gave them a contract.
And do you remember the day when, did it feel like it was going to be a seminal photograph?
No. I got off the train from Brighton. I had my little tweed skirt on and my little, I think I had Charles Jourdain shoes on. I always loved their shoes. And I had my hair in a little bouffant hairdo. And it was at Studio 5, which was run by a man called John Cole, I think. And he was so busy, he didn't want to be bothered with me. He said, "Oh, why don't you get here, this man, David, he'll take the pictures." Okay. And I just slipped the sweater on. It was something that, was just a little black and white for the Express. In those days, you had to provide your own skirt and everything, do your own hair and makeup, and provide your own shoes. So you always had to have shoes that were unworn, nice looking. You dragged around a beige pair, a white pair, a black pair. It was extraordinary.
So anyway, you entered the heady world of modelling and carried on modelling for a long time, many decades, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. I started off, you haven't got the beginning. I was leaving school and I didn't know what I was going to do. I did like doing people's hair, so I thought, should I be a hairdresser? And Mummy was very against it. Do you want to be a hairdresser? And there was a man opposite me who distributed sweaters in the South. We were living in Hove, and he took me in and paid me very little money in the holiday just to stack the sweaters for him, get them in order. And he had a daughter, and she said, "Here, you know what? There's a competition in Woman's Own to be a model." And I said, "So?" She said, "Well, you should go in for it." And I said, "Why?" I really didn't think much of myself. I had a very low self-esteem, but it needed. I read the thing, needed a photograph. So, of course, we didn't have a photograph of me. So Mummy sent me around to in those days, the camera shops on the high street always had a photographer in the back to take a picture.
Yeah, like a passport picture, yes.
So he took these pictures. They weren't very good. But anyway, I sent them in. And I got called up and had to go up to town to their offices, which were near Covent Garden.
How old were you? Young?
17.
Gosh.
And we had to stand in line. I think there were four other girls. And we had to put our hands out. And I had long red hair, which just turned under. So I had to show my nails. And I loved doing my nails because my mother always did her nails. So like daughter, like mum. And I'm standing there. And they were quite rude, these people. They were horrible. There was a woman there called Joan. I've never liked that name since. She was very snotty. And then she flicked my hair. She got to get rid of those spaniel's ears.
No.
Yes.
How rude.
Yes, I was. I was a bit upset about that. And anyway, I won.
And did you get a prize money with that?
Yeah, I got, and it was good at the time, I got £100. That was very good.
Huge amount of money at the time.
Yes, I did, because it gave me the money to travel up to London and an outfit from Phoenix. And Deirdre McSharry was the editor, fashion editress, and took me to Phoenix. She said, "What size are you, dear?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." She said, "Why don't you know?" I said, "I've never had a shop-bought coat," because my mother was a fantastic dressmaker.
So she made all your clothes?
Made all my clothes. So I said, "I don't know." So got a little A-line coat and a pair of T-strap shoes, which had just come in, so that was the bee's knees. And they sent me to Rosie Vansky, who was this good hairdresser at the time, who cut my hair to here, and it looked awful.
What, like a bob?
Yeah, sort of. It was just
Mary Quant bob thing?
No, it wasn't a bob. That was Vidal Sassoon. She was before Vidal, and it was a nothing. It was just nothing hair. I was so upset. Anyway, I was stuck with it. Oh, and then there was a 3-week course at Jerry Marshall, who was also an agent. So I did the 3-week course.
What did you do?
Well, you learned how to walk if you were being a show model, which I never wanted to do, and in fact never did. Uh-huh. But I had to do it. It was part of the course. You had to walk with books on your head, standing up straight. And I didn't have a problem because I always stood up straight. And then she said, "Now, I'm going to send you to a photographer and you'll have some pictures taken and we're going to make it into a card and you're going to take those. I'm going to give you a list." And this is me. I didn't know anywhere in London. But I learned how to go by bus and tube because I couldn't afford taxis. I was terribly diligent. And then you always had to ring from the station before you went home to see if there were any messages. So I was always waiting for a phone box at Victoria for somebody to get out so I could ring to see if there were any messages where I had to go the next day.
For a job.
I was terribly good.
You sound surprised.
No, but that was the best thing about me, because I was always known. She's got wide shoulders. She's reliable. She never goes on holiday. She's fine. You should book her.
Stood you in good stead.
Yeah, stood me in good stead, yeah.
And so what was can you remember the first job you were given?
Yes, it was the guy was David Olins. He was an okay photographer. His assistant was Tony Norris, and I wound up marrying him.
I was going to say, didn't you marry a Tony Norris?
Yeah.
Norris?
Norris.
Norris. How long were you married to him for?
He left after 5 months, and I was pregnant. I know. It was not a good time for me.
Awful. Were you actually married to him?
Yes. Yes.
Why did he do the runner?
He found somebody else. He'd been in Paris, found somebody else he liked better. So what selfish man. Anyway, I have a beautiful daughter, and she is...
Sophie?
Yeah, and she's been amazing.
And she has... your grandmother, aren't you? She's got a child.
I'm a grandmother to Miles. Miles and miles of smiles.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And so you were a single mother at 20 or something?
No, I was 23, and I had a mortgage, I had a car, I paid my bills. It was amazing. I was just... And I thought, it's not the end of the world. I had managed to get nannies and au pair girls to help with Sophie, and I carried on working. He didn't give me a bloody thing.
Unbelievable. So you must have been a pretty successful model in your 20s.
Oh, yes, I was. But, we were only earning 5 guineas an hour.
I know, pittance compared to today, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But it was still better than most people. So it was good.
And weren't you a Chelsea girl then? Weren't you living around here?
No.
Chelsea?
No. I started off, because when I married Tony, he had a flat in Petit France. It was too small and it was horrid. And I said, let's go up to Swiss Cottage, because Bailey was living up there, Duffy was living up there, and Donovan was living up there. So let's go where the photographers are. So we did, and we bought a flat there.
And did you hang out with those swinging 60s photographers?
Yes. And their various girlfriends. And I didn't move again until I went to a 6-bedroom, 6-bathroom house in Hampstead with a swimming pool and a jacuzzi.
Wow.
That Lawrence Harvey did.
Was he the second husband? Lawrence Harvey, yeah.
But I wasn't married to him at that point. He hadn't quite popped the question, but because I had his daughter. And when he was finally free, because he was married to some old bag in LA, when he was finally free, we did get married. And that was marvellous. And I absolutely loved it. The only thing is, he died 11 months later.
Your life has been quite a lot of heartbreak.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first big heartbreak, because he was only 45.
He had cancer?
Yeah.
How absolutely tragic.
Yes, it was horrible.
Were you living in LA then?
Well, I was living in London, but visiting LA all the time. I didn't move there until I married Peter Morton, Mr. Hamburger.
So marriage suits you then? You believed in marriage?
I did enjoy being married. So now I'm shaking that off. I'm going to get on with it, Pauline.
But I don't know, Pauline, you strike me as a strong character. I don't know whether you could have been defined by anyone except yourself, because...
Well, in those days, Larry was quite a big star, and he always had a whiff of scandal about him. He was a rogue.
You liked a rogue?
I liked a rogue, yeah, and he was fun. He was great fun. Peter, not so. Peter, what did I like about him? Well, he was so different. And he loved travel, and he liked my children.
That's important.
Yes, Sophie and Domino. He really liked them. And I've noticed that all the time, since all the years I've known him. He's always liked children, which is very sweet. Other than that, he's a bit of a bore.
And what did he do?
He had the Hard Rock Cafe.
Oh, he had the Hard Rock Cafe.
Yes. Yeah. He and another chum of his opened it. He came from a family of restaurateurs in Chicago, and so it was in his blood. And so they opened that, and they were so successful. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Extraordinary,
yeah.
That name.
And they opened it for nothing. And then he opened Morton's.
Yes.
On Berkeley Square.
I used to hang out there a lot.
That was lovely.
Wasn't it lovely?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was fun. We used to meet such interesting people to come in there. Larry and he liked it because I worked, I paid for my own living, I paid all my expenses, I paid for my children. Here was an independent woman, and I wasn't a tie for them, And I never mentioned marriage to Peter. He had to wait until he thought about it. One day he did. And so we flew to Las Vegas.
Really? Mm. Gosh, and what was that like? Just the two of you? Did you have a witness?
Yes, we had Nicole Fahy and her then partner, Stephen Marks, French Connection. His partner came, Isaac Tigret. He came, and the girls came.
So we're in the 70s and you're living in America. And,
in La La Land, yeah.
And you were leading a very glamorous life there with...
Yes, the restaurant.
And you enjoyed that life?
Yeah, to a certain extent. And I was bringing up a baby. You see, I had Harry there. And I thought, I'm going to be a mummy. I'm going to be a proper mummy. So I did still have a nanny, but I did all, much more with him than I did with the girls. Yes, yeah.
And you enjoyed that?
Yeah, I loved it. Mm. It was very nice.
And he tragically died, didn't he?
He did.
That must have been
unbearable. It was absolutely awful. He was 38, He was strappingly handsome. He was a beautiful man and a beautiful person. There was something so special about him. As a little boy, he was never nasty, never naughty, and he was very, very special.
How do you get over your child dying?
You don't. I mean, Domino died too.
Pauline, it's unbearable.
I know.
2 children.
Well, she was a naughty girl, and she ran with the very bad people. She associated with criminals, and she was a bounty hunter.
Wow, that's quite something.
I know.
Didn't they make a film about it?
Yes, they did. It was an awful film.
And so in these terrible times that you've had, as well as extraordinary times, in the terrible times, what got you up in the morning? What made you feel that you could go on putting one foot in front of the other?
No, I always get up early in the morning. I always do. I've never been lay-abed. I mean, it was lovely when I met Mark, because he'd bring me a cup of tea in bed, which I hadn't had for years. And yet I just thought I'd drink it quickly, and so I get on and get up. I like the mornings. I still do. Get up early here.
And even in the depths of those post-tragedies, do you have faith?
Yes, I do have faith. I do have faith. And the amazing thing is, with Harry talks to me. I hear Harry.
And you carry him around inside you, obviously.
Yeah. But I don't mourn him constantly.
In the memory, in the remembering, there's kind of an ease of pain, actually.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Were you never tempted to go back and live in LA, to the sun?
No. I've had enough sun on my skin. I'm always popping out little things I had to have lopped off, cut off, out, chiseled out.
And you've been here in this glorious place at Auriens for about a year, you told me.
Well, coming up, April 30th I came.
What made you decide to leave your house in...
Well, I went to Mexico and fell over and broke my wrist very badly. I had to have during COVID, and I had no insurance because you could go to Mexico, but it was a red country as far as insurance was concerned. Your insurance companies wouldn't, if you went there, you're on your own. And so that was a bit of a shock to me, and I came back, and I've had a problem with my wrist ever since. Not because they didn't do it well. They did it very well, apparently. Very, very well. But then I had to have a carpal tunnel syndrome done afterwards, and my hand is not right. Still not right. Still hurts. I've still got bruises on my elbow. I don't know if they'll ever go. So Sophie said to me, "Listen, Mum, I don't like you being in your house. It's got stairs." So I said, okay. So I looked around. I wanted to be in that area because I knew everybody. I was on the bus coming home one day from somewhere, and I looked out and I saw there was an ad up that said something about luxury living, apartments for sale for over 65s. I thought, wow, that might be it. So I emailed them.
Did you enjoy the sort of conviviality of the place?
Yes, yeah.
And you can pick it up or leave it if you want.
I didn't join in for quite a long time, so I was so shy. The first time I went down for breakfast, I went down and I met John first, little John. He passed my table. He said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Oh, I've just moved here." And I said, I'm Pauline. He said, "Oh, okay, well, you'll like it." And sort of carried on. Then he started talking to Claire, and I could hear her Irish accent. So we started talking, and that was nice.
So how do people mix? Where do they see each other? Just around and about?
Well, yes, around and about. Well, I started using the lobby because there was nobody in the lobby ever. And when my legs were sticking out straight like this, I thought, I can't sit here for the next,
2 broken knees,
yes,
I think it was.
2 broken knees. And I can't sit here for the next 4 hours till the carers come again. I'm going to die of boredom. I know what. So I called the lobby and said, could you come and get me? Because my wheelchair was too far. I couldn't get to the door. Anyway, the door was too heavy and it would open on the wheelchair. I couldn't get out. So they would come and get me. And I said, now I'd like a copy of the Times and a coffee, please. And I'd sit on that table And I'd sit there slightly behind the screen with my legs up, and people would come by and they'd go, "Oh, what's happened to you then?" So I'd be chatting away all morning. It was great fun. And then when my legs were a bit better, Lorna and I decided it would be fun to sit by the fire and have a glass of wine around 6 o'clock. Wine time, we called it. Wine time. And so we did. And then sometimes Claire would join us and sometimes John would join us. And people started using the lobby more, which is good.
And do you use the pool and the cinema?
You love the cinema. Always go to the cinema if it's something I want to see.
So it sounds like you're enjoying this new phase of your life.
Yeah.
What else? What are your other tips for living longer, better? Because you are a great advertisement for...
I don't know, really. I mean, I suppose you'd say easy on the drinking, but we love drinking.
I think I would say about you, you're curious about people, aren't you?
I like people.
You like people,
yes.
Yeah.
I talk to people on the buses even now.
Yeah.
Yes, if they give you a second look, I sort of just start talking to them.
Yeah. So it's been plugged into what's going on a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
And your style is extraordinary. Are there things you wouldn't wear that you would have worn when you were 40, for instance?
No.
Your style signifier is a polo neck, isn't it?
I don't always wear a polo neck. It's cold out.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's freezing. No, I've always... I mean, if you look at a picture of me in the loo, there's a picture there with Sophie, and underneath there's a picture of Sophie with her son. And we were amused by the fact we'd done these two pictures. But in the picture, I'm wearing a sweater and sort of velvet jeans. And that's what I've always worn. I've always worn sweaters in the winter with warm jeans, and then light jeans in the summer. It's a uniform. And I've never been into loads of skirts and people flapping around with long skirts. I can't be bothered with any of that.
Colour?
Always been a bit beige. And I love white. They called me the lady in white on Bloomfield Terrace because I wore so much white. I do love it. It suits me.
And how do you keep your skin looking fresh?
Just sort of... I've used the same stuff for years. It's so boring, isn't it, really, when you think about it? I've tried various other makeups, and I think I always go back to the same old one. But I do cleanse my face very carefully every night, and I always wash it afterwards with a warm face cloth and get the rest of the makeup off. And I'm very careful about that, however tired I am.
And what about exercise? Do you do exercise?
Yes. I used to do Pilates in LA. I used to do Bikram yoga in LA. Yes. And then I had personal trainers that came to the house, and that was very good. So I carried on having personal trainers at Bloomfield. And now, of course, I'm going to the gym because the girl there, Holly, is a trained NHS physiotherapist. So I gave myself over to her. I said, look, you've got to get me better. And she said, well, listen to me and do everything I say, and I do. And it's been hard.
I read somewhere, something that you wrote, that you said that you're, in your mind, you were always going to be 57.
Oh, yeah.
But then it became a problem because your daughter caught up with you.
Yes, yeah.
So I think we all have an age where we are imaginatively stuck.
When I got to 50, that was the one birthday I didn't like. And so I thought I'd stay at 50. And people would ask me how old I was. I'd say 50Q. I wouldn't really tell them. And that's why I stuck in the 50s. But no, it's silly.
Do you feel that we live in a society that sidelines age, or do you feel accepted and respected as a woman?
Well, I mean, back in the sort of early 60s, if I thought of my grandmother, 80, they looked like little old ladies.
Yeah.
Everybody's a little old lady, but not now.
No.
I mean, I love the thing that Jane Fonda said the other day. She was quoted as saying, now, because she's older than me, and she was saying that people said, oh, you can't make new friends when you're old, stick with your old friends. She said, I love my new friends. She said, I meet young people and I insist that they become my friend. Whether they like it or not, I love meeting new people, new friends. And that's how I feel too.
That's the key, isn't it, to your and they don't verve and vigour?
Yes, I guess.
What have you learnt, do you think, in these passing years that you wish your 21-year-old self had known?
I don't know. We didn't know much then. We just muddled along. I mean, I got married so young, and yet I felt that I was almost the last in my group of girls to get married. And I was going to be on the shelf.
Really? That's extraordinary.
Yes.
Was it all about marriage, do you think?
Oh, it was very important to get married, yes. Because nobody lived together.
No. If you had a granddaughter, you wouldn't be encouraging them to get married at 21 now, would you?
No, probably not.
And finally, is there anything on your bucket list that you'd really like to achieve in the next year? Well, where would you like to go? What would you like to do?
What would I like to do? I think about that a lot. I'm going to Mexico City in May. I'll be there for my birthday. It's a beautiful city and it's got wonderful... I haven't seen half of it. It's got ancient ruins and all sorts of things. It's very nice. And then I'm going on down to the coast and we'll be there with Sophie and her husband. And that'll involve sun and lollygagging around.
And Mexico City is great for art, isn't it? And I see from this apartment that you have a marvellous collection. Is there anything that you wish you had that you don't?
Oh, gosh. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a Van Gogh?
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yes.
And what is your greatest extravagance in life? Or has been, and what is?
Well, I suppose when I was young, I had a fur coat.
Okay.
Yes.
And now, do you have an extravagance?
I don't want jewellery. I don't want diamonds. Do you?
No.
No.
I wouldn't mind a little spoonful of caviar.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Because I've got somewhere. It was a crystal, a really pretty crystal thing with a thing suspended in it in silver for the caviar and a lovely top.
Oh, beautiful! Yeah,
somebody took that one.
Where you put the crushed ice around
yes,
it. Yeah. Lovely.
Yes, no, we don't have to have it so cold because we're going to eat it straight away in some baked potatoes. Ooh, I love
delicious.
It. Yeah.
Delicious.
Yeah.
And as you get older, and I'm sorry to use that word again, do you look back on your life and think it's been a fascinating life, and do you have any regrets?
Oh, it's a bit pointless regrets, isn't it? Because if I could say I regretted marrying the first husband, but I've got a lovely daughter, and she's been wonderful, and no, I don't regret anything really.
If you've enjoyed today's show, you can hear more episodes by clicking follow wherever you're listening to this, or simply searching The Third Act on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. And if you think your friends would love to listen, please tell them about us. This episode was produced by Pete Norton and Holly Fisher and made possible by Auriens, luxurious residences that are redefining later living in the heart of Chelsea. I'm Catherine Fairweather, and I can't wait to join you next week for another episode of The Third Act.